Hi guys. This actually began as a video response to Kate Stefano. Um, it has ended up being really long. And Kate, I hope I said your name right. I'm really sorry if I didn't. Um, yeah, I've got a bit carried away with this. I got really into what I was talking about, and so I thought I'd just make a longer video, really dealing with um, different info really on journeying. Um, so yeah, um, basically, I'm going to be talking really about um, astral travel. Um, Now, there's often some confusion between what trance work is, what astral travel is. Now, trance work can be a whole variety of different things. There's out of body astral travel, where your fetch, um, part of your soul, actually leaves your body to go traveling. There is straddling, where you have one foot really of your soul in your body and one in the astral. There's dream walking, which a lot of people think they do, but often they don't. It can be quite confusing for some people because obviously dreams can seem very real. Now, Kate, this isn't aimed at you, but with dream walking, usually it's that you experience it across the whole night. You will not wake up. Even if someone tries to rouse you, you won't usually wake. When you do wake in the morning, you are completely exhausted, run down. I've actually noticed weight loss and dehydration myself. I noticed those after doing what I felt to be a really powerful piece of spell work as well. That's quite a common way for me to feel like I've given the energy if afterwards I notice that sort of weight loss, hunger, dehydration feeling. Now, there's also lighter trance, which is a really important part of witchcraft and allows you to still be aware of things. Now, there may be closed eye trance while you're concentrating on visualizing, or perhaps being able to see through certain barriers. There's also a lighter trance where you have your eyes open, but for example, you may be focusing on a point in front of you and be seeing spirits or fae in your peripheral vision. Or you may be casting a spell and moving around and all sorts of things like that. Now, with journeying, you really need the protection of your spirit guides, particularly if you do not have somebody with you while you're journeying. It can take years to meet your guides. I've had one guide who I've known about for a very long time. However, it wasn't until more recently that I met a huge variety of my guides and really got to know one of my main guides in depth. They've told me that I simply wasn't ready emotionally. I wasn't strong enough. And there's no shame in that. That's absolutely fine. If you're not ready and your guides know you're not ready, just wait. You will be ready. So if you haven't met your guides and you don't regularly work with your guides, then I definitely suggest doing that, getting into spirit work before starting to journey. Usually journeying is done for a purpose. And that's really important. And of course, you may journey to meet your guides in a part of the astral that belongs to you. But if you're going just out into the astral, then you do need those guides. have your back, really. Now I know, Kate, you mentioned about how you were often falling asleep and things. And I found that a similar thing happened to me when I first started, and that it really helped changing the time of day to a much earlier time and purposefully avoiding it by using scents that kept me awake. Spearmint has been a really good one for me, but I will go into that more later. Now, the other thing was that you were talking, I think, Kate, about how you found it difficult to meditate or journey without lying down. I also had a similar thing when I first started, and I actually found later, when I tried a lot of different techniques, that I do journey lying down, but I also sometimes journey or go into lighter trances as well through movement, and I really urge you to try those. So things like swaying, literally swaying or swaying back and forward and rocking, and also dancing. One of the ways that I found really effective to reach trance is turning off all of the lights, being in a space that I know really, really well, either in my own home or in my garden, or you could go somewhere that you know out in the wild, because I have a disability, so it's difficult for me to just up and go, although in the future that will be happening more often. But yes, so being in a space that you know, turn off all the lights, no candlelight, turn off all electrical things in the room. I've blown lights and stuff doing trance work, so that's just an important stuff for our family, certainly. But and I just dance, I rock, I sway, I move my hands, and I find that it's actually a really, really effective way. Sometimes once I feel I am close, I may have set up an area where I can just go down and then fall into trance. There's a similar way to do it where you ride the stang, really. And there have been, I know of other people who have done it by literally crossing a hedge or stepping through a crossroads. So yeah, I would definitely suggest trying to do it at an earlier time of day, and just trying out different techniques, because as well, you the more you try, the more you'll find strange things that you really didn't think would help you. I never thought I would be a dancer to get into journeying. With guided and non-guided journeying, oh, hold on, sorry. Pardon? Oh, okay. 2 seconds. Sorry about that. Oh. What's that, darling? I'm hungry. Right, I think I'm back. Sorry about that. My son Orion has got home from nursery, and I'd set him up in the other room because he's quite tired. But he came in wanting dried apple. Anyway, where was I? So, I think I was on guided and non-guided. So, with you may have a guided beginning, but then of course to leave you need to be non-guided. Now I know Kate mentioned that obviously hers was later non-guided, but for some people they have slightly confused guided meditation, which is still a very useful tool. It's particularly useful in healing work, and also can be useful in strength building, I suppose, and in working on visualization, which is of course really important in spell work. Now with journeying, you need to learn about the fetch, which is a part of your soul, or well, some people believe it's a part of your soul, that is the part that remains, if you like, the essence of you. So if you believe in reincarnation, it's the part which reincarnates. So it's the fetch that will do the travelling, and often it may travel as an animal. It may look very different to you as a person. Now it's really important to mention here that you have to adore your body. You have to be in love with it, and that is a reason why my spirits would not let me journey. And I think it's a big issue for a lot of people, but you need to love your body enough to be absolutely positive you want to return to it, if you're going to journey away from it. So if you're using a meditation that's guided all the way, most would argue that's not journeying. But of course it is just as important, and some witches may not journey. You don't, no one has to do everything, and we all have different talents, and that is fine. Now there is of course also prompts. So you may have a written prompt which you either learn, or you simply sort of have it in mind as you go into it. Now there's a fantastic one in Treading the Mill by Nigel G. Pearson, and he talks about going through a door, essentially, which you open to a path, you walk down the path, and as you walk you realise the moon is above. You enter a wood and walk through the wood, and you will come to your own place within the other world. You then of course make your return journey and come back. Now it is a really useful prompt, and there are lots of others available, but Treading the Mill is a good book with useful information if you want to go down the journeying path. Now you can also write your own prompts. You may have a staircase that you walk down and get to a fire, a bonfire, and walk along a beach, or usually there will be some way of walking and visualizing and then stepping off, and it's the stepping off of course that allows us to step into the other world, and that is when the prompt ends and your true journey will start beginning. So long as you decide on the beginning of your prompt and you have it clear in your mind, don't allow for confusion or misremembering, because it will distract you too much and you won't reach the end. There's also, of course, I mentioned about the fetch changing into other animals, and there is a very famous chant by Isabel Gowdy that's been turned into a song, If you look on YouTube for "I Shall Go Into a Hair," you'll find it, and you could use that or a version of that, particularly if you know what you change into. I recently had it revealed to me, the animal that I turn into, and or the animal that my fetch travels as, and it was revealed to me in a dream, and it was a truly eye-opening experience. But as soon as I knew, it made sense, and the way that I travel and experience the other world makes more sense. So if you know which animal, that may be a route for you to go down and explore. Another way of trying to reach trance or get into trance is telling the maze. Now, obviously, a maze is different to a labyrinth. A labyrinth you can get lost in. I'm sure this is right. And a maze you can't. Now, that may be the other way around. I'm sorry, it's been a very long day. Either way, it's called telling the maze, usually. Yep. Hold on a mo. Sorry about that. The hungry young. So yes, it's called telling the maze. Now, essentially, you can make the maze. You could make it so that you run your finger through it as a trance technique. You can also make one that is big enough for you to walk around. You can lay out stones to do it. You can use, if you're inside, you can use masking tape on the floor. You can use crystals if you would like, although you'd need a lot of crystals. You can do it with more than one person. However, of course, well, I personally find that I reach trance state better when on my own. But I think some people find the opposite. So it's also good to experiment with different crystals. Now, I found that some crystals keep me too grounded, some make me a bit scatty, and others just make everything very intense, leave me with a sort of dark feeling afterwards, which I'm not too keen on. I found that Duracell quartz, which is not often actually mentioned in spirit work, but it's a gorgeous, gorgeous crystal, and it really helps me to have that clarity of mind whilst I travel. Now, I tend to have it near me rather than holding it, because I like to be quite balanced when I'm working on trance or travel. That's probably a personal thing, but other people may feel the same. So if you do, I just tend to have it either on my lap or in my pocket. Touching the skin is best, but I don't think it's necessary if it's near you and you're going to be receiving its energy. You can even put it on the side if you're dancing. However, I do let it know that that's what I'm going to be using it for, and I do harness its properties, if you like. So I converse with it beforehand just to let it know, and rather than just sticking it on the side, which I'm sure it would have an effect, but it's not quite the same. There's obviously also music, and I know, Kate, you mentioned that you have a strong musical response, and I totally gel with that. I do, my son does, even my husband does actually. Now, of course, drums are often mentioned, and I love a bit of shamanic drumming. Now, for me, if the purpose of the journey is important, so if I want an intense experience, I go for intense drums. Again, if I want a gentle experience, I go for gentle drums. So Kate, for you, if you're having very intense experiences, it might be best to go for nice gentle drumming. There is one on YouTube. I might post the link below. It's got a crackling fire, and then the beat of the shamanic drum. It's long, but it's not so long that it's awful. The only bad thing is that all these adverts that they keep adding to YouTube, it's now got adverts at the beginning, so you have to start part way in, which is ridiculous. If I get some good CDs, I'll let you guys know. But essentially, if you're using YouTube, I'll post a link below. I also have found that maracas can be really effective, and for me, if I'm doing a drum myself, that kind of, I don't know, there's something about beating a drum which somehow harnesses me to here and now, and I just can't get there. Whereas with a maraca, I actually find that that can be quite an effective way of getting into trance. Once I'm in trance, I tend to stop, so I do always have backing sound, although sometimes the backing sound's turned off before I return, and that, yeah, so it's not a necessity at all. Some people find that complete and utter silence helps. You know, binding. If you've ever seen the cages that witches have worn, or actually just binding yourself completely and utterly, covering yourself, wrapping yourself up so you cannot see, muffling your ears, that can all be a way of releasing yourself into the other world. For lighter trance work, I found that wordless songs can be really good. So songs where it's just a voice, but a voice, you know, not saying lyrics. There's quite a lot of sort of Arabian type style music can be good for that, I find. But equally, I mean, my heart is with the Celts, to be honest, and a bit of Celtic flute can really get me there. Something about the wind instruments, just beautiful. Now, protection-wise, I know that, Kate, you mentioned protection. I think you mentioned a witch ball. Is that right? Which is fantastic. That could be me. This is what I mean. Scrambled brain today, so I apologise for that. But some good amulets can be rowan wood. You've of course got the rowan wood and red thread, which is quite well known. There's also, of course, amulets that you may have protective symbols on. You might like to use runes if you're into runes, either witches or Norse. The other type of protection that I feel is very important is visualization. Now I use usually I use a variety, but the three that I'll talk about that I know other people have also used are a sphere, but you start off with 3 lines. So you have a line coming down through your head and out through your feet, or your bottom if you're sat. You have, and that's, you know, as above, so below. From one side to the other, through your shoulders or your waist if you prefer to visualize it, and then coming forward through your belly button from back to front, protected from all sides. You see them going into eternity, and you reach out that energy right to eternity. You harness yourself, and then you sphere around. There's also the 4 pillars. So you have 4 pillars, 2 in front, 2 behind, and you are encased within those, and encased within protection. That can often work quite well for people who have earth in them and respond very well to earth and stone and solidity. there's also the web. Now you can do a trance technique with this where you visualize almost like wool, and you find the energy and you pull it all the way around. Now you can do it with your hand, or you can simply see it, and you come all the way around, and then you do around this way, and around this way, and back, and by doing that repetitive motion, and feeling that energy moving that way, it moves you into the trance, and then you begin by using your prompt or opening your door, going down your staircase, whichever way you personally use. So those are all ways of protecting. You would want to usually back that up with a verbal confirmation of the protection. Remember, you're a witch, you have the power to do that. Now, Kate, you mentioned using sage. I've actually found that sage it's a gorgeous thing. It's lovely for harmonizing, but I find that for negative spirit entities, I've had a lot more success with rosemary, rowan, mugwort. Local plants can be great. So if you're from Britain, rowan, mugwort, agrimony, St John's wort, juniper, pine, rosemary, all grow on the British Isles, and I have found I've had a lot of success using those as a protective incense. Pine and rosemary can be great for cleansing your space. Make a smudge bundle of those to cleanse your space. And then the rowan, mugwort, agrimony, St John's wort, and juniper to give that protection whilst travelling. With oils, I would usually burn a protective incense. I would also burn or dedicate that protective incense to my guides. So yeah, I would burn the protective stuff, and then with the essential oils, I tend to drop them either on my clothes nearby, or make a mist or a balm. A balm's quite nice because you can rub it on your third eye area to awaken that. Particularly, I know, Kate, you said you work with chakras, so that could be a good one for you. And you can also do a mist. That's quite nice for dream work as well, making a mist, because you can mist your pillow. Particularly if you don't want to use a full-on dream pillow, you can use the mist. Now I use clary sage, juniper, and then lavender sometimes for calm. I also have had a lot of success with spearmint, which I wasn't expecting, but I found that it helps keep me focused and very relaxed, whilst not having the huge sedative property of clary sage, or the sort of dissociation of juniper. So Kate, if you're finding that you have negative experiences, it may be worth having a go with some lavender and spearmint, just to sort of ease that negativity, and really keep you in a positive place when you begin. Now obviously a lot of people talk about getting there, and being on the journey. Yeah, I know, baby. I'm gonna cook dinner in a minute. How many interruptions have we had today? So yes, we always talk about getting there but not coming back. So with coming back, visualization, or having a, how do I put this? So creating perhaps a doorway, a staircase that you walk back up, a tunnel. I've found that the way I travel, and the animal I am quite suits a tunnel. So I have a tunnel where I go round a certain number of ways, curling round, and then I go straight and I can see the light coming through at the end. When I reach the end, I can open and step back out into the room. I think that coming back and making sure that you come back in a progressive way rather than very suddenly is really important. And if you don't do that, you can feel quite angry, depressed, or have mood swings. There's also some confusion or dissociation. That's my cat, I think, one of my cats. So yeah, there's also giving yourself time to adjust once you come back. So make a grounding incense, you know, have some vetiver, have some lavender with that, something, you know, woody, earthy, but also equally relaxing. It's quite taxing to journey, or even to do spirit or spell work, so it can be great to just have that grounding incense there. Have a tune you play, perhaps classical, to give you a chance to readjust. Something soft can be nice. Equally, I mean, I don't actually feel like talking after I've done spirit work very often, or trance work, any type of trance work really. I can often feel, or heavier trance works, I can often feel still a bit insular. But I do come away and I write it, and I make sure that I always take notes, and I didn't used to, and I really regret that. But I now do. No matter whether I'm exhausted, hungry, whatever, I just write it first, even if I'm just scribbling with a biro, which is what I tend to do, and then type it up later. You can also obviously go out and find a stone from the ground that really feels reassuring and you know, pulls you back down, harnesses your energy down to this level in this world. I hope this has been helpful. It was a bit of an unplanned, quick, random video, so I'm sorry about that. And I'm sure, Kate, that you know quite all of this, maybe even already. But yeah, I hope it's been helpful to anyone who's watching. And I hope you all have a lovely October. Samhain's coming, Samhain's coming. My son is so excited. So we do Samhain presents. It's amazing. We get to dance, maybe even naked.